apocalypse. Laura Ingraham is the founder and editor-in-chief of LifeZette and our friend, Fox News contributor. Good morning to you, Laura.
Hey, guys. Good to see you.
Hey, okay, overnight, President Obama, Obamacare replacement.
Here, let me hold up the...
All right, there's the headline.
The New York Post, first 100 days, Obamacare plan unveiled.
All right, travel ban signed.
Yep.
Travel ban 2.0, and doubles down on the wiretap claim.
He's itching for a fight, Laura.
Hey, you would have been good as Carol Merrill in the old Let's Make a Deal with that pointing, Doocy. That was very good. I like that. Well, there's a lot of action going on, and I think that's what he promised. I think the more the White House focuses on their action items, their agenda items, ticking off one after the other, what they promised the American people, and then go on the road and sell what they're doing with Congress on these various issues in a positive, very transparent way, the better off they are. Getting sidetracked on the Democrats' obsession with Russia. I watched that Robbie Mook interview you guys did earlier. I mean, they're just... I had never seen Democrats so obsessed with Russia. I mean, when we needed them in the 80s to fight with us and rhetorically and philosophically against the old Soviet Union, they were nowhere to be found. In fact, they were siding with the Soviet Union.
But the thing is, Laura, for 8 years, they've been the kindest to Russia than ever. Russia ran right over President Obama for 8 years, until this last month. Then he got tough.
Right. Russia and Putin got stronger and stronger and more influential and grabbed more territory under Barack Obama than I would imagine they would be successful in doing so against a Trump presidency. So they're obsessed with Russia. We get that. There'll be an investigation. It'll find nothing. But meanwhile, this Obamacare replacement, guys, is a bit of a controversy on Capitol Hill, and I'll tell you why.
Well, let's get to that in a minute. But because you did mention Robbie Mook, and of course it all got started when President Trump said, you know, I think President Obama wiretapped me in Trump Tower, and then people came out and said there was no wiretapping. Well, when we had Robbie Mook on, he actually admitted, and he's the Democrat who was in charge of her campaign, that they are and did wiretap the Russians and invariably the Trump people as well. Listen to this.
I think it's important to step back, first of all, and remember the facts here. The facts are that Trump aides were caught talking to Russian agents, and those conversations were captured because the intelligence community regularly taps the phone lines of those Russian agents. So I think it's important to start
wait a minute.
there.
You're saying there was a wiretap? You say there was a wiretap?
That there was a wiretap of Russian agents, and that those Russian agents were communicating with Trump staff. That's why they were picked up.
How do you know that?
That's what the intelligence community has told us. That's what's been reported very widely. Those are the facts.
That's what the intelligence community has told us. That's the problem. There are some gigantic leakers in this administration who are giving away big secrets where those people could actually go to prison if they're ever found.
Yeah, Eddie Haskell got himself into a little trouble there.
He did.
With the comment. I think we do know that both Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, and I think Carter Page, their communications from the reporting that I've seen, The Guardian's done a lot on this, the New York Times wrote about this in January, their conversations were swept up in the dragnet of intelligence monitoring of so-called Russian agents or Russian associates or anyone they were at a conference with who was whoever worked in Russia. I mean, who knows how broad this went. So I imagine when Donald Trump was tweeting out that comment about Russia and monitoring and wiretapping, he was referring to what had already been reported. Now, you can quibble with the way he worded it and so forth. Did Obama order it? Was it just ongoing as part of the overall investigation into alleged Russian tampering with the election? We don't know. But getting back to the main point, I think a lot of this, people's eyes glaze over on this Russia story. We'll find out more as time goes on. But meanwhile, the administration and Republicans, you know, time is ticking away. They're halfway through first 100 days, and now they're putting points on the board. They fixed the executive order. They had a great rollout of that with Kelly, with Sessions and Tillerson. It's the way it should have been done initially, frankly. Their messaging and communications now has to follow, and that means everybody in the White House and the Republicans on Capitol Hill, they have to understand that, you know, they're on the same team here. They're going to disagree on some policies. But you got the media, you got academia, you got the entertainment industry, you have a lot of the judges, you have the Obamas, probably the Bushes, none of them are going to help them push their agenda forward. Only the Republicans are going to be able to do this, and they have to stay focused.
You know, it's interesting. He's having Richard Trumka, the head of the union. They're going to have lunch today or in the afternoon. Lindsey Graham's going to be up there too. I think that it's going to be interesting as we transition now to talk about health care. It's going to be interesting to see the role the president's going to play. Evidently, he's got, and I've seen it, he's got great people skills. So he has nothing against Jim Jordan. He has nothing against Paul Ryan. But how is he going to get the Republicans together? Rand Paul and he have really hit it off. How is he going to get Rand Paul in? And I have an idea. Why don't you take a little of Rand Paul's idea, a little of the Freedom Caucus idea, and let them have a seat at the table?
I think you're making a great point. And Brian, what many people are not pointing out today yet is that the Trumpism of the health care reform, the Trumpiest parts of it, were transparency in pricing, competition across state lines, and even on the edges, repealing the McCarran-Ferguson Act, which gave insurance companies antitrust insulation protection. Where is that in this plan? I don't see any transparency and control of the skyrocketing prices of health care. I certainly don't see the competition across state lines. And the drug companies, there's nowhere to be, no provisions about that as far as I can see. Trump went across the country and was supported by both Democrats and Republicans, and a lot of what he was saying there, but none of that, again, as far as I'm reading today, none of that is in the bill so far.
Great point.
If I'm Trump, I'm saying, look, I went to the people on this, guys. This has to be in. But as long as they're worried about keeping the entitlement in place, using the tax credits with the 26-year-olds, I guess 26 now, you're still immature and a juvenile, so you have to be on your parents' plan. As long as they're clinging on to these old provisions,
right,
it's going to be hard to square all this.
Well, there are some differences. It eliminates the taxes placed on businesses and the penalties on those who don't want to enroll. You're no longer going to be penalized.
That is good, but again, the skyrocketing cost of health care, I don't believe is dealt with in this legislation. And I think, again, what Trump said at every debate and at almost every speech is across state lines are going to compete. We're going to have more transparency, and the drug companies are going to have to do some competitive bidding like they do with the OECD countries. So we get lower prescription drug prices. None of that's in this.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that the across state lines wasn't it either, but maybe to come.
A lot of lobbying goes into this.
Yeah, you don't want to see how the sausage
contrary to what people
made.
think. Yeah.
We had Carly Shimkus on a couple of minutes ago, and she was talking about how in Alexandria, Virginia, which is just across the river from where you're sitting, apparently 300 teachers, female teachers, are going to not show up for work tomorrow because it is Day Without a Woman Day to protest President Trump. They've already called ahead and said, look, we're not showing up. So they've canceled school for everybody because they're taking off.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina, too, Laura.
Guys, everything in our society today has taken on a political tint. And I think it's really unfortunate. People can't get away from politics for a minute. Kids go to school to learn. If people want to protest on their own time, they can do that. But I find this to be just another example of the left having burrowed into the academic establishment from the administrators on down, and conservatives got either afraid to speak out, parents are afraid to speak out, or the few conservative teachers that are there in the public schools are afraid to speak out. I think this is appalling. I mean, how about a day without thinking? How about a day without critical thinking? How about a day without freedom of real expression in the public schools? Right. You should hear the horror stories I'm hearing from a lot of schools in the D.C. area. People just afraid to speak out on issues because of what will happen to them. So I think we have a lot of without's already in the public schools.
You're not against the protest. You're saying do it on your own time.
You are an educator. And now you're taking a, quote, personal day to protest, and they're doing it because they want to shut down the schools, and then they want to come in the next day and tell the kids how noble and how viable this protest is and what they should learn from it. Yeah, this is all going to be a teachable moment the next day in school, and I find it both juvenile and depressing, frankly. But everyone's got to speak out.
I hang out in a lot of all-male locker rooms and a lot of all-male places. We do not need to be reminded of the importance of women.
Yeah, exactly.
I speak for all men. We think women are important. Please work.
What all-male places are you going to?
Right. Just trying to emphasize a point. But we have men and women locker rooms. You go in there, just see men, we talk about women.
Brian, for now, that's a vestige of the past.
I know,
Come on,
right,
you know,
Laura.
that's not going to be around.
You're right. I was looking back at the 80s.
Laura, are you going to work tomorrow? That's the question.
I am. You know, I am going to work, and I'm going to have
women at LifeSet that don't show up. Are they getting fired?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we'd have to take that under advisement.
All right.
I don't. You know, we all take our jobs very seriously, and at LifeSet,
right.
And I don't think we have anybody at LifeSet who would do that.
Just call the temp agency, say, send me a man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Reagan air traffic controllers. we got to just fire them and move on.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of people who want work. That's all I can say. A lot of unemployed teachers out there as well.
All right, go run your radio show and LifeSet as well.
Good to see you
Laura Ingraham,
guys.
we'll see you next week.